Hey besties, it's Lisa Marie. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. And if you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. I love you guys. Today I have for you over 35 fall-inspired DIYs. I can't wait for you to see them. In the meantime, let's get started. I found this gorgeous picture. It's almost like a framed wreath, and it was sold through Pinterest by Gifts and Wreaths Boutique, and it was $69. And I thought I could do this, so I have this frame that was gifted to me. And then I found this Hello Fall sign at Hobby Lobby, and then I'm going to use different chalk paint colors, which I will show you again. And right now I'm just going to take everything out of the frame and remove the little metal pieces that hold things in. I'm going to use the agave color as my base coat, and I'm going to put a coat on the back, and then once that dries, I'm going to turn the frame over. And I'm going to do the same thing on the front, and the front is gorgeous. It has such beautiful detail, and I'm going to accentuate that. And what I'm going to do is, after I paint this with the agave, I'm going to go in with some of the Waverly white wax, and I'm going to paint it on and then take a paper towel and wipe it off. And I just love that effect because you still see the agave, but then you get all that detail. Now, once I finished this, I decided it needed something else. So I'm going to add some antique wax. And then I'm going to do the same thing, put that on and rub it off. And then just to make sure I didn't lose too much of the agave, I do go back in and touch up a little bit by dry brushing on some more agave and bringing back some of that beautiful color. I just love that agave color. And so that is how I'm going to get this to look close to the color in the inspiration piece. Now, that Hello Fall sign that I got at Hobby Lobby is so cute. I love these wooden signs. Now, this was $5.99 and I got it for 40% off, so it was a very good deal. I'm going to take the plaster color chalk paint and I'm going to paint the front, the back, and inside between all of the little letters in the sides because I want the whole thing to be in that plaster color. The next thing I'm going to do is take a bunch of different floral picks, and they're all fall for the most part, and I got most of them at Dollar Tree and some at Hobby Lobby on clearance. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through with my little snips, and I'm going to just cut off the things that look like the ones in the picture. Now, I ordered a bow maker because you know I'm bow challenged. Anyway, I am taking my buffalo check ribbon. Now, in the inspiration piece, it was kind of like a blue and white buffalo check, but I didn't have that, so I'm using my black and white, but I think it looks great. And I'm just making my bow using the bow maker, and gotta tell you guys, this is a game changer. And I'm going to tie some twine around the middle, and then I'm going to take another little piece of that buffalo check ribbon and I'm going to wrap it around the center just to make it look pretty and hot glue that down. Then I'm going to fluff my bow quite a bit and I dovetail the ends. And as soon as I finish this, we're going to go back to arranging those florals because the bow is going to go on top, so I need to get those florals down first. So I'm going to take a little piece of that buffalo check ribbon and I'm going to wrap it around this one little side of the frame. And the reason I'm doing that is so that I will hot glue all the florals to it instead of the frame in case I ever want to change this out. So now I'm just going to start creating like a swag. So pretty much everything I put up, I'm going to put down. I'm going to put some sideways. You'll see I'm just looking at the picture, the inspiration piece, and I'm just trying to make it look as much like that as possible with the pieces that I have. And it's just so easy to do this. I mean, you just hot glue it, let it dry, and it just comes out so pretty. I really love this look. And doing this on a picture frame, I've never done this before and I absolutely love it. You could hang this on your front door. You could put this inside your home, whatever you want. It's just so cool. I love all the different kinds of florals and greenery and fall florals that they have. It's just so cool. And this is just a perfect fall combination. Now, once I get everything glued down and set exactly the way I want it. I'm going to take my bow and I'm just going to put hot glue right there in the center of all that, and I'm going to hot glue my bow right down to this. And then I'm just going to tack down a couple of the little loops so that it looks the way I want it to. I absolutely love the way this is turning out. Then I've got this cute little knob from Hobby Lobby. It's 99 cents, but I literally got it for 70% off. So, I mean, that's almost free. And what I'm doing is a combination of E6000 and hot glue to attach it. The frame isn't thick enough to screw right into it. And then I'm going to put some twine inside the little holes on the Hello Fall sign. I'm going to hang it on the knob, and then I'm just going to tack down a couple edges of the Hello Fall sign so it stays in place. You guys, I love this one. Please let me know if you love it too. If you are enjoying this video, please stop what you're doing right now and hit the like button. I would really appreciate it, and it tells YouTube to show my video to more people. Thanks. I've been saving corks for a long time. It takes a long time to get this many in my house, and I'm going to make something out of them. I'm going to use 2 of the Waverly chalk paint colors, Pumpkin and Truffle. My inspiration for this piece came from Pinterest, and this is being sold by True Vine Gifts for a set of 3 for $52. Now I'm only going to make one set, but divide 52 by 3, and I'm still saving a ton of money because I'm able to make this with stuff I had at home for free. So I put a portion of the corks into, and you decide how many you want to do each color, and I put them in this little jar, and then I sprayed water in it, and I mixed in with some of the pumpkin paint, and then I did some more corks with the truffle color, and that way I get kind of a blotchy covering. It's almost like distressing them a little bit, and then I dry them with my heat tool, which you can find in my Amazon store. All my tools should be there. And now I'm going to hot glue the pieces together, and I used the picture to count how many were in each row, and then I just kind of mixed up the colors the way that I wanted them to look. And then I start gluing them on top of each other, like stacking, and they fit right in nicely. Let's say the bottom row, the next row, they fit right in between them, so it fits really nice and it's easy to glue them right in. And I do reinforce some of the areas where they touch just to make sure. Now this piece is very solid. I've put so much hot glue. I don't think you need to use more than hot glue, but you certainly can. And it's just coming out so cute, you guys. So the assembly goes really fast. There are 5 rows, and the bottom row has 5, then the next one has 6, the middle row has 7, and then it goes back down to 6 and then 5. And then you use 1 cork at the end for the stem. And honestly, it's just really coming together so easily, and I absolutely love the way it's looking. I'm going to use one of the unpainted corks for the stem, and I'm going to cut it at an angle because I want it to sit on top slightly at an angle, and that way I can hot glue it right to the top. I'm going to grab some really pretty fall leaves from the Dollar Tree and also a pick from the Dollar Tree that has little berries on it, and I'm just going to hot glue those right around the stem, and that's just going to add a nice little touch, and it's going to make it look similar to the one in the picture. And I kind of tack the leaves down a little bit too so that they're laying exactly the way that I want them. This was a super easy project, and I absolutely love the way it turned out. Please let me know what you think, and would you consider making something like this? I have this cute little tag that I got at Dollar General, and I was inspired by this piece I found on Pinterest, and each piece was for sale on that little tiered tray for $15 each, and I'm thinking I can make this for way less. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand off what's on there already, the design that's there, so I can paint over it with that cottage white paint by Full Guard. And I'm going to have to give it several coats to cover, but it looks really nice when it's finally done. And I'm going to do the edges and the back side because I do like to finish my projects. I'm going to dry it real quick with my heat tool, which is in my Amazon store, along with my other tools that you can get on Amazon. I'm going to use this piece of cardboard to cut a circle because on the inspiration piece there was a little round tag right at the top where the hole is on the tag itself. I'm going to paint that with the pumpkin colored chalk paint by Waverly, and then I'm going to use my liquid adhesive that I got at Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to glue that right on top. And so don't worry about the holes that are already in it because I'm going to have to make a new one anyway just to get it right in the center. Now the back had the hole, so I put a little hot glue in there and then I just painted it white. And now I'm going to use my Crop-A-Dial, which is one of my favorite tools that's in my Amazon store. And I just punched a hole right through that and then I touched it up a little. Now I'm going to take some painter's tape, and there's a stripe at the top and a stripe towards the bottom, and I'm just going to place my tape so that I can treat it like a stencil. And I'm going to use my brush as if it were a dabber, and I'm going to take the truffle colored Waverly chalk paint, which is a brown, and I'm just going to lightly dab over that, and then I will remove the tape and I'll have two nice lines there, just the way I wanted. It looks like the inspiration piece. Then I used some stencil vinyl that I ordered on Amazon, which you can also find in my store, much cheaper than other places. And I reverse weeded it by taking out the letters, and then I put it down, and then I dabbed on it with that paint again. And now I'm just taking off the excess vinyl that's left. And now for the pumpkin spice. You can use stickers. If you know how to do hand lettering, you can do that too. And I sanded over the top lightly, and then I covered this with some Mod Podge just to kind of seal in the paint. Then I took a little piece of jute twine and tied a little knot, and there you go. With all the supplies, this probably cost me $3 to make. This was so easy, you guys. Tell me what you think in the comments. Super cute little sign on Pinterest sold by 6 Little Ducks for $24, and I just felt like I could make this. So I have this cute little wooden piece from the Dollar Tree, and I just sanded it down, and now I'm adding pumpkin colored chalk paint by Waverly all over the whole front and sides. I'm going to mist the top while it's still wet with my sprayer, and then I'm going to use antique wax, and I'm going to keep layering it till I get that look of the color that the inspiration piece has. So it's taken me several times going back and forth, but I think I finally have it. And I'm going to remove the tag from the back, and then I'm going to take the wax and I'm just going to put it on the back and wipe off the excess and just stain it just to give it a finished look. And then I'm going to turn it back over, sand the top and wipe that off, and then I'm going to sand around the edges to get that pumpkin color to start peeking through again, and I just love that look. And the inspiration piece also had the distressed edges. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little jute twine hanger on the back with some hot glue and some masking tape. And then I'm going to take premium decoupage and I'm going to go over the top because I am going to use my Cricut for this one to create the words. I'm going to try to replicate the fonts as best as I can. And of course you can always do stickers, stencils, handwriting, or tracing. And it's just going to say my favorite color is October, and it is so cute, and this was super easy. If you are enjoying this video and want to see more, definitely hit the subscribe button. I'd love to have you back. I've got this truck from the Dollar Tree and a stencil I ordered on Amazon, that Waverly cashew and fawn colored paint. I'm going to sand off that glitter. I'm also going to use some plaster chalk paint from Waverly. I'm going to cover the whole front of the truck, and I do 2 coats. And I'm going to dry it in between with my heat tool that I also got from Amazon. And then I'm going to sand it again, make it nice and smooth so I can use my adhesive stencil. Now, some people use these stencils with chalk paste, but I just do it with regular paint. And I just dab it on with a little foam dabber, and I'm real careful about it, and it seems to work fine. Now, I like the super distressed look in this case. So if it doesn't come out perfect, I'm okay with that. And I used a little scraper tool to spread it around. Now I'm just going to piece this stencil because it's not quite as big as the body of the truck. And I'm loving the way this looks. I'm going for a very neutral look here. And so that, cashew color really did the trick. Now the fawn is what I'm going to paint the wheel wells with and those little bumpers on the side. And then I'm going to go in with some ink colored chalk paint and do the wheels. Of course, they're going to be black. What else would wheels be? And by the way, my friend Rebecca Jane from Home with Rebecca Jane is the one who I got these trucks from. I couldn't find them anywhere, and she had a bunch in her stash. She let me buy them. So shout out to Home with Rebecca Jane. I ordered these artistry brushes off of Amazon. It's a great deal. So I could do this really detailed type painting that I struggle with if I don't have a good brush. So I'm going to do the little white in the center of the wheels. I'm going to touch up my paint in the wheel wells, and then I'm going to sand all the paint surfaces and just kind of dull it down a little bit because I want it to be softer. And then I'm going to sand the edges as well so that you kind of get that distressed look to it. Not too hard, just a little bit, and then around the entire truck. Now I have last year's farmer's market calendar, and in the back there's the little pictures of the calendar pages, and I'm going to cut out the locally grown. And I'm going to end up getting a scrap piece of wood that I have. I'm just going to pull off the 2 sides. It's from a Dollar Tree piece that I didn't use all of it. Sand it down, and then I'm going to use the cashew paint and get my brush wet first. And then I'm going to lightly paint, almost like making a stain out of it. And just going to use my mister and then just spray that, and it'll go on really nice and light. And I'll do the front and the edges, and I don't need to do the back because that will be attached to the truck. Next, I'm going to cut a little piece of burlap, and I got that at the Dollar Tree, and I'm just cutting it, and then I'm going to fray the edges just a little bit. Used my little adhesive glue from the Dollar Tree with a nice fine point and some hot glue to make sure it stays down. And then I'm going to put my little locally grown sign right on there. Use my brayer, smooth it out, take some jute twine from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to cut 4 pieces. I'm going to hot glue them right around the edges of that little sign so that you don't see the ends of the paper, and then it just fades right into the burlap and it looks like it's part of it. I just love the way that looks. Next, I'm going to put some of my adhesive and hot glue on there, and that way I get a nice hold and put that like on the side of the truck as if it's sort of advertising what business it is. Now this is my miter shears, and it just cuts through these shims so easily, and anything that's not too thick for wood. And I'm going to make the little side panels of the back of the truck. I'm just going to do 2 across and 2 going down on either side. I'm not making them perfect. I want this to be very rustic. I'm going to hot glue them and attach them. I'm going to use my cashew chalk paint, and I'm going to paint one of my little pumpkins that I used in a project last year and had already cut in half. I am going to take a little piece of a skewer, I'm going to snip it off and use antique wax to make it look like the pumpkin stem. I'm just going to use the antique wax to make all the stems look similar and then wipe away the excess. Now I'm going to cut this pumpkin in half the opposite direction so that you see the top of it instead of the side of it. And now I'm just going to hot glue it directly onto like the bed of the truck so it looks like it's all stacked up in there. And by the way, I made little stems with the skewer stick for all those little baby pumpkins. Now I've got this kind of wheat looking or cattails. I got some of them at Hobby Lobby on 40% off and some at Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to cut them apart and just place them around and hot glue them. Now I like to finish the back of my project, so I'm going to use my ink colored chalk paint from Waverly and just paint the back. I thought with the shape it is, it'll look so much better than the craft paper. And this one's done and I love it. Let me know what you think. I found this adorable little pumpkin on a stand at Dollar Tree, and I got this set of 12 tags for $4.99 at Hobby Lobby. What a great deal! That's less than a Dollar Tree price. Now, although this pumpkin is cute, I have to change it, of course, because it's almost neutral, not quite. I also found this amazing fabric. I think it's really a curtain over at IKEA. It was on sale for $9.99. Look at how big and thick that is. It's like upholstery fabric. So I'm just going to cut out a big enough piece to use for this pumpkin. And I just love this pattern. It's very neutral, but it has a nice like kind of, pattern to it. It's not plain. I'm going to cut off those wider seams so it'll be easier to work with. Once I have both of the edges cut off, I'm going to hot glue this piece to the base of the pumpkin, and then I'm going to trim all around it to make it fit the shape. I would like to have a nice border around this instead of just a cut edge of that fabric, so I'm going to use some nautical rope that I got from Walmart. It's a great deal there. And I'm just going to hot glue it all the way around the actual face of the pumpkin 2 times to create a finished edge. I'm also going to use the nautical rope to wrap around the stem and cover the entire thing. I got a roll of this off-white berry garland over at Hobby Lobby, 40% off, and sometimes they have it at Dollar Tree too, a smaller roll. And I'm just going to twirl it around my finger a few times and cut off a little piece, one for each side, and create the little pumpkin tendrils with it. Then I've got this little raffia bow with a button in the middle, also from Hobby Lobby. I'm going to hot glue that right to the center of the pumpkin stem. Now I'm going to take one of those tags I showed you at the beginning from Hobby Lobby. I'm going to cut a little piece of burlap that I got from Dollar Tree, fray the edges by removing some little pieces. I'm going to hot glue it down in the 4 corners, and that's going to become my little tag that will kind of be like a sign for the pumpkin. I'm going to take some of that raffia and I'm going to cut it to form the letters for the word fall. And I just thought that would be kind of cute to use one of the materials that I've already got on hand like this to keep it neutral and a little bit on the rustic side. I'm just going to use that liquid adhesive from Dollar Tree to put that down. It works perfectly for this. And also I love that pointy edge so I can get very precise when I need to. Then I'm going to take a little bit of jute twine from the Dollar Tree, string it through the hole in the tag, and wrap it around the stem of the pumpkin. I'm going to secure the tag with a little hot glue on the front right where I want it, tie a knot in the back with the jute, and trim the edges. And this one's done, and I think it turned out super cute. Using this little crate from the Dollar Tree, some pumpkins that I got at either Hobby Lobby or Dollar Tree over the last 2 years, little baby pine cones, also from either of those 2 places. The colors fawn and cashew from Waverly, along with plaster. I'm going to paint this entire crate, outside, inside, between the slats, top, bottom, you name it, in the color fawn. I'm going to take the pumpkins and make sure they're neutral, so I'm going to use plaster on this particular one. I'm going to paint all the stems with the antique wax and then kind of wipe off the excess. I'm going to paint this little gourd or squash, whatever it is, in the color cashew. And of course I'll dry them all with my heat tool, and then I'm going to use that antique wax, like I said, to do the stems. And on this one, I actually think the color is neutral enough. I'm just going to add a little accent to it. I'm going to take that antique wax and I'm just going to paint in the grooves of that pumpkin, the dark taupey one, to give it that depth that's kind of like contouring in the crevices, if you will. And then I'm going to do the little pumpkin that I painted plaster. I'm going to use the cashew, and the pumpkin that was already kind of that cashew color, I'm going to use the plaster as my defining color on it. And then on the gourd, I'm going to use a little bit of the plaster just to give it some accents. So you can see what I'm doing here. I'm kind of alternating the colors with each pumpkin. going to take the 4 little pumpkin scatter pieces that are white, and I'm going to turn them into wheels. And I'm going to sand down this cart so it makes it look a little more aged and smooth. And I'm going to take my ink Waverly chalk paint, and I'm going to paint the back and front of each of those little, we'll call them wheels now. And then I'm going to get a little piece from the back of last year's farmer's market calendar. Super cute little sign, and I'm going to use my adhesive from the Dollar Tree and just put that right on the side. I'm going to take my brayer and I'm going to smooth it down. Take a little bit of jute twine, and I'm just going to wrap it around the little sign to give it a finished look. Super easy using hot glue. Then I'm going to take a white marker from Arteza, and I'm just going to color in the center of the wheels. I'm going to hot glue the wheels right onto the bottom of the cart. Now, I didn't need to use E6000 or anything. This isn't going anywhere. Of course, use whatever adhesive that you're most comfortable with. And then I'm going to cut up some of the hula skirt from the Dollar Tree, assemble the pumpkins just till they look cute, and put in the pine cones. Then my little cart is all set. Then I found these mini scoops. There's 3 in a package for $1.99 at Hobby Lobby. I'm going to take one, and it just so happens it fits between the slats on the bottom of the cart perfectly. I was like, oh my gosh, because I was looking for something to use as a little, handle on the wagon. I'm going to paint that fawn color and just paint the end of it in the ink colored chalk paint. And then I'm going to hot glue it and attach it right in there. And it just, look at that, it fits perfectly. I couldn't have planned that any better. This turned out so cute and it was so fun. Let me know what you think in the comments. Seen a lot of people using these little straw hats from the Dollar Tree to make things, so I thought I'm going to try something. And so the first thing I'm going to do is remove the little ribbon. It was really glued on and the heat tool didn't really help, so I had to kind of like cut it off. Now I'm going to take the cashew color, and let's go back to this pumpkin. It was one of those foam pumpkins. I got it last year at Dollar Tree and had styled it different and painted it. So now I'm going to paint over it in the cashew color. Now I need to make a hole in the top of the hat. So I'm just kind of cutting it's almost like a fish wire threading that it was assembled with. So I'm just making the hole big enough. I'm going to put it over the top of the pumpkin. I'm going to hot glue it down to the top. There's a ruffle around, so like every 3 little humps of the ruffle, I make a cut, and then I'm going to hot glue down the hat to the very bottom of the pumpkin. Now as I go, I start trimming the ruffle off and other pieces off so that it doesn't get so bulky at the bottom. And I'm going to just continue to do that all the way around the pumpkin. I do have to hold it for a while with the hot glue. I thought afterwards that maybe it would have been good to pin it down with something, but I didn't have anything handy. Now I've cut off excess and I'm putting the very final piece, down on the bottom, trying to flatten it as much as possible. And I realized this pumpkin won't stand on its own. And I found this cute little crate that I got at the Dollar Tree. I'm going to sand it off and I'm going to paint it with the fawn color. And I got my brush wet, so it's almost like a stain, and I'm going to wipe off the excess so you can still see the wood grain. Now when I painted the underneath, I didn't care about that. Now I'm going to use E6000 and hot glue and secure it very well to this crate so it has something to stand on, and you can put it on a shelf or whatever you want and it won't go anywhere. Now I'm going to take some nautical rope that I got at Walmart, and I'm going to wrap it around several times just to kind of cover up any of the bulkiness of the pumpkin on the bottom. I've got this burlap from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to cut out a little bit and roll it up and kind of hot glue it to itself, and that will become my stem when I get ready to do that. Now I'm going to get a couple of leaves from some pics I found either at Hobby Lobby or Dollar Tree. I'm going to hot glue those down to the top. I want to keep in that neutral theme, so I didn't want to get any bright leaves. And now that that's done, that looks really good on my pumpkin. Got this cute little straw hat that came in a package from Hobby Lobby. I'm going to turn it inside out. And the reason is then I can stick it right in that hole, hot glue the brim of the hat down, and now I've got a perfect spot, 1, to cover up the hole, and 2, to put my pumpkin stem. And it fits in that hat perfectly. Again, remember, it's turned inside out. I have this cute little beaded garland from Hobby Lobby, wrapped it around my finger, cut off a piece, and hot glued it down on either side of the stem. It's so cute, you guys. I love this look. It just got tons of texture. Got a little raffia bow with a button in the middle. I also hot glued that right to the center. That's from Hobby Lobby also. And then I've got these cute little like laser cut wood things, and I've got pumpkins and leaves, and I just am attaching them to the front of the pumpkin and laying on the crate, and it just added such a nice little, accent. I'm so happy with how it turned out. I hope you guys like this one too. It was really fun. For this DIY, I'm using a combination of supplies I already had that I used before and some new ones. So some of these little signs I had used before, so I'm taking off whatever I had on them. I'm sanding them down just to make sure there aren't any loose edges. And then I'm using this placemat that I got actually at the Family Dollar store. It was still only $1. And I'm going to cut out each of the mason jars so they're individual, and I'm going to cut off the greenery in it. I'm going to use the truffle colored chalk paint, and I'm just going to paint the top of each of these little signs because on those edges they have this really pretty plaid that looks really nice. So I'm going to let that show, and I'm going to do 2 coats. And I got this $1 little adhesive glue from Dollar Tree. I'm going to use a combination of that and hot glue to attach these together, and then I'll turn it over and make sure that they're reinforced in the back. And what I'm going to do is reinforce these seams with some little popsicle sticks. I'm just going to make sure that the little hanger is secure with some hot glue so that it's right in the center of what will be the top. I'm going to take some craft paper, cut it down to size, and hot glue it around the edges like I always do to finish off my projects. And then I'll trim around the edges to make sure it's nice and tight. And I'm also going to cut open that little area to make sure that the hanger is showing so that we can hang this up when it's all done, if that's what we decide to do. Now I'm going to take my mason jars and just figure out how I would like to position them. But before I attach them, I'm going to use some Waverly White wax, and I'm just going to dry brush across. I want these to look like wood planks. And so what I'm doing is just putting a little teeny bit on my brush, wiping most of it off, and then going ahead and dragging it across. And I really like the effect. It makes it look like it's really wood. And now I'm going to take my liquid adhesive and combination of hot glue, and I am going to go ahead and put down the mason jars. I'm also going to use my brayer to make sure that they are adhered on the whole thing. I'm going to do that with all 3 of the mason jars, and I think it looks really cute the way that they're positioned and just on the wood, so it looks like literally it's on pieces of wood planks. I'm going to also take some little thin jute twine from the Dollar Tree, and I'm literally going to hot glue it around each of the jars all the way around. And that kind of finishes off the edges instead of it looking like plastic, which it is. Now I'm going to take some really pretty fall greenery that I got in just different colors. I found the flowers at Dollar Tree, and then the other piece that looks kind of like wheat, I got that at Hobby Lobby on sale, 40% off. I'm going to cut them down real short, and then I'm going to hot glue them on so that it looks like they're coming out of the mason jars. And once I get all of that on there, I'm going to pull the leaves forward and cover up the stems so that you don't see those little stems and it looks like it's just coming right out. Now that I've tacked down the leaves that cover up the stems, I'm going to go and make the little bows that you see already on the placemat. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to hot glue a piece of the twine straight across like it is in the picture, and then make a bow to match and just hot glue those right over the painted on, if you will, bows. And I just think it gives it more of a 3D effect, and I just really, really love how it's looking. I had a lot of fun making this one. I'm super happy with it. I'm going to use 3 of those little boxes that usually have the drawers in them from the Dollar Tree, and 2 of these little teeny cutting boards I got at Hobby Lobby on 40% off clearance. They're adorable. And then I always save little pieces of things that I don't use. So I've got a chicken, a tractor, and then this little like half circle shape. And these were literally such a good price. They were $3.99 each, but 40% off. And I'm going to use the plaster color chalk paint from Waverly and the truffle color chalk paint from Waverly. Now, one of these boxes was already painted white previously, but I'm going to sand the other 2 down, and I'm still going to go over them with the plaster color because it's just off-white. And I know that other white will look different if I don't cover it. I'm going to paint all 3 boxes, inside, outside, bottom, everything. And then I'm going to sand down my little pieces. I'm going to paint the half circle plaster on both sides, and then just the back of the chicken and the tractor with the plaster color as well. Next, I'm just going to kind of play around with them and determine where I would like to place them. So I've decided I'm going to use a combination of hot glue and liquid adhesive to put the chicken and the tractor on the 2 outside boxes. And I'm going to wait to add the little half circle. Now I'm going to take the truffle and a foam brush and just very lightly touch all of the edges, the entire box, every possible edge there is. And I'm just loving that little farmhouse antiquing look that it gives. Kind of goes into the wood a little bit, so it's like not a clean line. And then I just added a little bit to the edges of those pieces and around the middle, very lightly dry brush. So now I can go ahead and figure out the placement of the half circle. Now I'm going to take that liquid adhesive and the hot glue and attach all 3 boxes to each other. So that way I've got one piece now going forward. Then I'm going to cut up some cardboard to lift up that middle piece because I can't get it on there without it interfering with the chicken and the tractor. And by doing this, it kind of puts it slightly above it, and then I can get some glue on the back and attach it, and that really makes a huge difference. So if you're ever working with pieces that don't lay the same, this is a great way. Just kind of paint the edges of the cardboard like I did with the truffle, and it will just be hidden and you really won't even notice it. Next, I'm going to take last year's farmhouse calendar. I'm going to go to the back of it and cut out this cute little picture that just says Farm Fresh. I'm going to trim it down to size so that it fits right on that little half circle. And I'm going to use that liquid adhesive on the back, and I'm just going to put it on there and then get my brayer out and make sure every piece of it is touching the surface. And it's super, super cute. I'm going to distress around the edges of that, and I got a little too much on there, so I just quickly grabbed a baby wipe and I was able to clean it up right away. Now I'm going to take my little cutting boards and get rid of the tags, and I'm going to do a tight bond, which is like a heavy-duty wood glue, and I'm going to put that on both sides and then a little bit of hot glue just to get it to stick for right now so that I can keep working. And it's a little wider than the 3 boxes, but because I have some pieces hanging over on the front, I had to let the extra go to the back, and you really won't notice it. Now, I'm going to take a big piece of twine, it's a little thicker, make a knot, put a little drop of hot glue. I'm going to wrap some tape around the edge of my twine. I'm going to put some of the bigger beads on there. They're just natural. I'm not going to paint them. I got them on Amazon, and really good deal. I'm going to put just enough to make it to the other side, and then I'm going to string the twine right through, make another knot, and then add a dab of hot glue to make sure it stays in place. And now I have a cute little farmhouse handle for this caddy. You could use this for so many different reasons, and that's it. That's all there is to it. This DIY is almost a trash to treasure. I've got this little plastic container that held some of my dog's medicine, and then I've got these furniture tacks that I ordered on Amazon. I'm using some of the brown faux leather that they sell at the Dollar Tree if you're lucky to find it. And then I'm just using a piece of a box, and I'm literally going to rip off that outer layer on both sides and reveal the corrugated part. Now it takes some time. You got to get under it with something sharp like I did, and then I sanded off kind of any extra pieces just very lightly using the Dollar Tree sanding sponge. After I did that, I also tried to take the label off of the little container, which I really didn't need to, and then I just sanded it. I'm going to use the steel color chalk paint by Waverly, and I'm just going to paint the very bottom portion and then the very top portion of this little canister because that's all you would ever see once I put the cardboard on it. What we're going to do is create a faux galvanized metal look. So I've got the steel first. I'm also going to paint that corrugated cardboard on one side solid in the steel and on the back just around the edges and about an inch in case you see any of that. Now I'm going to measure and make sure that my piece of cardboard is the right size for this canister. And I'm going to cut it out just to make sure, because once I have it, I don't want to have to cut it again when I paint everything. And I just trim it down and know that it's going to fit now. And then I'm going to take that steel, cover, like I said, this whole side and a little bit of the back. The next thing I'm going to do is take my ink color chalk paint, which is a black, and I'm just going to dab. I'm just using a hard brush and I'm just barely dabbing on. I don't want it to look like, you know, little circles. It's like a pouncing. I'm just very lightly touching it. And you see I'm just getting a little bit on there. I'm going to do the same thing on the little container because everything that I painted, I want it to look like that. Now I'm going to take some white, and this is a folk art paint. I think it's called cottage white or something. And I'm just going to do the same thing on all the pieces that were originally steel. And as soon as I finish with that, I'm going to take the metallic silver by Folk Art and do the same thing. And that kind of tones down the white when you do that. And now it'll have that faux galvanized look. Now, because galvanized metal like this would be old, I have one more step to do. But first I'm going to go ahead and attach this to the little container. So I'm just going to wrap it around, and I'm going to use hot glue periodically around as I attach it just to make sure that it's nice and secure on there. And then at the very end, I'll just put some right around the edge to make sure that it kind of goes over the other piece and lays there nicely. Now the last step is taking burnt umber or a color like that, that's from Apple Barrel, and go around all the seams and edges and make it look rusted. And then maybe add a little here and there, just, you know, in other places, just to kind of give it that natural rusted look. And this color really does a great job with that. And I make sure not to put too much on, and if I do, I wipe it off with the brush so that it's just a very light, almost like dry brushing type effect. I'm going to take the faux leather ribbon and I'm going to hot glue it directly to my little vase, and that's what it is. And I get the seams together, and then I'm going to take one of my furniture tacks, and because this is just a plastic container, it literally sticks right in perfectly, and I don't really have to worry about the point on the other side because I'm just going to put faux flowers in here. So I did the first one, and then I'm going to go up to the top and do a second one, and so it's got 2 rows of that towards the bottom and the top, and I think it looks so cool that way, and it just makes it look like a very high-end piece, and it's just a look that I really like with the faux galvanized metal. I have some foam, and I'm just going to cut it up into pieces and put it in there so that I have something to stick my faux flowers in. I'm going to take a little bit of this moss, and I'm just going to cut a circle so that you don't see the foam on the inside of the can, and it sits right there, and I can still poke the ends of the florals right into it. So I've got these beautiful blue florals and then these kind of wheat looking ones, and I think the combination together is just so pretty. And they're from the Dollar Tree. And once I have these florals arranged, this one is complete, and I hope that you really like it as much as I do. I picked up this cookie jar at a thrift store. It's actually Threshold is the brand. I think they sell that at Target. So it's really nice, and it had the little part in the front that was like chalkboard, but I didn't like that green. So I cleaned it all off with alcohol because, you know, it came from a thrift store. And then I used this chalkboard paint I got at the Dollar Tree. And I went over the chalkboard area just because I wanted to freshen it up. I didn't know how long it had been sitting in the thrift store. And I just carefully painted only that part so it had a new fresh coat of that on there. Then I took that same paint and I painted the inside of the lid. And just not the outside, but just the inside I'm going to paint. And then I'm going to use my White Kills primer paint. And I'm going to prime the lid. Now, you know, it's very glossy ceramic, so things aren't going to stick to it, and that's why I realized I probably needed to do that. So I'm going to use that white color, dry it off, and then after doing a couple coats, I'm going to use this white chalk paint I have from Folk Art, and I'm going to go ahead and then cover with the chalk paint and dry it, because my plan is to do a buffalo check over the top of that. Now I'm going back and just filling in the rest of the chalk paint for the lid. I just wanted to keep that part black. Now I've got this kind of silkscreen stencil that I ordered on Amazon. It'll be in my Amazon store. Did not buy chalk paste. I'm only using my chalk paint, and I need to tell you, it works just fine. So I kind of dabbed it on there with a foam brush, and there you go. And then I touched up some of the little spots where I, kind of pulled it off. And then after I do that, I put some decoupage liquid over the top to seal it, and I do a couple coats of that. And then I'm going to use the dishwasher safe Mod Podge for the inside in case the cookies touch the inside. I want to make sure that that is covered with that. And then I use my Cricut to cut out the word cookies, and I use the Ray Dunn lookalike font called the Skinny, because I have some Ray Dunn things in my kitchen and I wanted it to match. If you don't have a Cricut, you could print this out on some computer paper and then trace it on, and it would come out really nice. And it looks so cute, you guys. Now I have two ribbons, a black silk one and then a narrow reddish one. And I'm going to hot glue the red one to the top of the black one. I'm going to tie it around the top of the cookie jar and just make a very simple bow. And then I'm going to put a little straw raffia bow in the middle that has a button right in the center. It's super cute. I bought it already made at Hobby Lobby on 40% off sale. And that's it. This one is done. So cute, and I absolutely love it. Please let me know what you think and tell me if you like it too. I found this adorable Let's Get Cozy sign over online at Antique Farmhouse for $26, and I think I can make this for less. I found this little framed metal art at Hobby Lobby on 70% clearance. It was like $3.74, so 70% off that, very cheap. Now there's a lot of stuff to remove here that I have to use my heat gun for, so I am just gonna work away in fast motion and get all of that stuff off. Took a little heat and a little muscle, but I did get them all off, and now we are ready to go ahead and start making that adorable little sign. Now the wood that they used for their sign was a lighter wood. This is stained much darker, so I'm gonna sand some of it off. I'm also gonna need some beads and some twine to create the little hanging thing that drapes across the sign. Now where that metal thing was, I had to fill it in with a little bit of wood filler and sand that down because I needed a smooth surface. I'm going to use the plaster colored paint by Waverly. Now, okay, I should have taken the base picture out of the frame. I didn't think of it till I got a little further along, so if you're thinking it now, yeah, I know, I should have done it. Anyway, I didn't at this point, so I was trying to be so careful not to get the paint on the frame. I did have to wipe some of it off, but that's okay because you know what? Good things happen. So now I'm just adding a little bit of the plaster and then wiping off some of it from the frame so that I can lighten it even a little more. I'll never get it to their color of wood because it was already stained. I would have had to sand that thing way down. I'm going to use some painter's tape to create the little stripes that were on there, and I'm going to use ink color chalk paint by Waverly, but I'm going to water it down. I have a little spray bottle there, and literally I'm just going to put a whole bunch on and then kind of dab it off, and then you'll see when I remove the tape there's just a nice little line, but it's not like super dark and solid. So I'm going to follow the pattern on the original one and do it exactly like they did. There's some darker, thicker stripes and some very faint, narrow stripes, and that's what I'm doing right now with the tape. I just use the same pieces of tape over and over because they're always dry by the time I get them back on there. And I'm basically treating this like a stencil, so I'm not painting it on, I'm dabbing it on. Just wanted to mention that. I probably should have used a little dabber, but I just took a regular paintbrush and kind of tapped it on there. That way it wouldn't be that super solid line. In order to do the letters, I have tons of Dollar Tree alphabet stickers, and I decided to use those for 2 of the words, and then I'm going to handwrite the other one. And I could have used my Cricut, but I just had these handy and I decided to go ahead and use them. So the font for the word cozy is different than the one in the picture, but I like it. It's kind of more cutesy and it fits the word. And then the font for get, that's fine. It looks great. And then the word let's, they had it in like a cursive, so I decided to hand draw it with a pencil while looking at theirs, and then I go in with some paint and then eventually with a marker to darken that and make it look better. I'm not great at the lettering, I'm learning, but you know what? I do think it turned out cute, so I was very happy with how that part turned out. Next, I'm going to take the twine and the beads, and you don't paint the beads in this one, they just stay natural. So there's like a pattern. It's 2 beads and then a tassel, 2 beads and then a tassel, and then 2 beads. Now I'm going very fast here, so what I'm going to do is in my description box I will have a link for a very good tassel tutorial that I made months ago. I'm just going to do it quickly here and get this thing assembled. Once I have everything strung on the twine, I'm going to attach part of it to the back because it drapes over from the right side to the left side. And I'm just going to hot glue it down and make sure I don't cover up any of the words. And I even trim my tassels a bit just to make sure that I don't cover the words. And then I kind of tack everything down a little bit with a drop of hot glue to make sure it's laying exactly where I want it to. Sometimes I get excited when I'm making things and then I forget a step, which is putting Mod Podge over the whole top of the sign. So I had to move the tassels around a little bit, but I got it covered. And now I'm going to hot glue the sign piece back into the frame, which fits perfectly because I had just pried it out carefully. And this sign has turned out so cute, and I literally made it for less than $4. The original was $26. Let me know what you think. This gorgeous pumpkin wreath from Kirkland's was $44.99, and I found a wreath form like this at Hobby Lobby on sale, 40% off of $12.99, and I had tons of fall florals that matched it from the Dollar Tree, and then also some buffalo check ribbon from Hobby Lobby on sale, 40% off. So now I'm just going to kind of place the pieces where they were in the picture and just kind of see how it's going to look and which ones I'm going to use. I'm not gluing anything down until afterwards. I'm going to take my buffalo check ribbon and I'm just going to make a very simple bow because that's what they had in the picture. And I'm going to actually use a little bit of hot glue just to secure the pieces, and then I'm going to take another smaller piece of the ribbon and wrap it around the center, and I will dovetail the ends. And literally that's all for this bow. Super simple, which is a good thing because I'm a simple bow maker. I'm working on it. Trust me, I am trying. Now I'm going to go ahead and place those pieces in with some hot glue and secure them. I'm only putting the glue right where it touches the wreath form, and that way if I ever want to take this apart and redo it, I will be able to do that pretty easily without messing up the gorgeous grapevine wreath. And I love this pumpkin shape. It's so cute. It's got so much texture and interest, and I just think this is coming out really nice. This is honestly a very easy one. Now I know some people get intimidated by wreaths, but this was just incredibly easy. Just look at the picture and place the different florals wherever I think they needed to go, and that was it. The last step is to hot glue the bow right in the center below the stem. This cost me less than $13 to make with all the supplies. And what do you guys think? I found these adorable little book stacks for the fall, and you could make any one you want or any combination, and that's kind of what I did. So I've got a little crate from the Dollar Tree that has those 3 planks, so it looks like there could be 3 books, and I'm using cashew, agave, and pumpkin colored Waverly chalk paint. And then I've got this gorgeous little burlap lace ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and then from burlapfabric.com they sent me that cute little ticking ribbon. I'll link that in the description box, and I have a discount code if you're interested in that. So I'm going to sand the whole little box down, make sure there's no little rough edges, and I'm going to use painter's tape to paint off the different colors and create the look of books. This is such an inexpensive way to do this without, having to go get 3 books, which you can at the Dollar Tree for $1 each, by the way. So I'm just going to paint each one of those sections a different color, and I love that combination of the pumpkin and the agave for the fall. That's kind of my accent colors, and then neutrals in between. I'm really loving that. Oh, and I also like the traditional colors from fall as well. So again, just taping off each section and painting so that way I have a definite distinction of the colors. I want them to look a little worn, so I'm going to go ahead and sand each of the stripes of the colors and then all around the edges and between the planks, because I want this to, like I said, look like it's been sitting around for quite a while and a little bit worn. I'm going to take the color Fawn by Waverly, and I'm just going to take a super small brush and get in between each of the colors all the way around and then wipe off the excess so it looks like they're actually books and that shadow creates depth, like it goes deeper than just the surface. So that's what I'm trying to do. To write the words on the side, I guess I could have used my Cricut or some stickers, but I decided to write them. They kind of look like they were in that skinny font, that Ray Dunn look. I'm using a white Arteza paint marker to write the word cozy, and then I'll do the same for the word weather, and I'm using a brown Arteza paint marker to write the word sweater. Now, I am not a calligrapher, so I'm just doing my best looking at what they should look like, and I actually think they did turn out really cute, so I'm happy with it, and I wanted to have that kind of fun, that cozy feel. That's what I was going for. I'm going to figure out how much ribbon I need to wrap it around the long way and make a bow, and then I'm going to cut that piece off, and then I'm going to cut an exact same length piece of the Dollar Tree ribbon, and I'm going to hot glue it to the top of the farmhouse ticking ribbon. That way I create a really interesting, cool looking ribbon, and then I'm going to tie that all the way around and make a bow, just a very simple bow. And I'm going to hot glue certain places down so it doesn't move around and it doesn't cover the words. And literally, that's it. That's how easy this one was. This was $13 and I did it for under $3. I hope you guys like this one as much as I do. I love seasonal garland, but $24 seems like a lot. I know I can make this one for way less. I've got this fabric from Walmart. It's Waverly and it's a buffalo check plaid. And then I'm using a piece of cardboard to create a template, and I'm going to make my little triangle, and I'm making it 3 inches on each side. I'm going to cut that out, and then I'm going to get some even more heavy-duty cardboard that I have, and I'm going to cut out 10 of them. Then I'm going to cut a strip of the fabric that's twice as long as what I need, and I'm going to hot glue each of the little triangles down. And once I get them all hot glued, I'm going to roll the top of that fabric over it like I'm doing right now and just hot glue the rest of it together. So that way both sides are attached with glue and both sides will have the fabric on it. After I get them all attached, I'm just literally going to cut out the triangles, and off camera I trim them really well. And then after I get them all trimmed, I'm going to take this amazing tool called the Crop-A-Dial. It's in my Amazon store if you're interested. And I'm literally going to make a hole on each end of one of the sides of the triangle. That way I'll be able to string them up. And there it is. It's such a cool tool, you guys. I use it all the time. It'll cut through metal, wood, you name it. Like, it's nothing, no effort at all. So once I have all the holes, then I'm going to take a little makeup sponge and my ink paint by Waverly. And because of the cardboard showing a little bit on the edges, I'm just going to go ahead and rub the paint all around the edges, and that kind of just seals everything in and it gives it a really nice look and maybe a little distressed. And then I have this cute gold and white twine that I got at Target, and I'm literally going to string them using that twine. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hot glue each little piece of the twine to the triangle so that they don't move around. And I'm going to use my template to space them so that way each one will be 3 inches apart and it'll just look really nice. You can make your triangles as big or as small as you want, and you can space them any way you want. So this was $24 and I made it for under $4. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I have 3 different size pumpkins. They are all from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be making a really cute wall hanging using all 3 of them together. So the first thing I need to do is remove tags, remove extra embellishments. I need to sand off the glitter because you know that stuff gets everywhere. On this one, I need to remove the little jack-o'-lantern face and nose and eyes because I'm not going to need that part. And then on the last one, I'm just going to sand it because it's got kind of like rough edges. So I just want to make sure that there are no splinters or sharp edges left behind. Next thing, I'm going to take the first pumpkin that I'm going to get ready to use, and I'm going to use my White Kills primer paint just to put down a coat of white, because I'm going to be putting tissue paper over the top, and I don't want the wood grain to show. I want it to be white underneath. And I've got this gorgeous buffalo plaid tissue paper that I think I got at the Dollar Tree, and if I didn't, it was Michael's. I wish I could remember. I'm just going to use my Mod Podge, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do half and then the other half, because it's a lot easier when you have a bigger piece to do it in pieces. So I'm just going to go ahead and lay down the Mod Podge, smooth my tissue paper over the top, flip it around, and do the same thing to the other side. In order to eliminate as many wrinkles and bubbles as I can, I put a piece of saran wrap over the top and use my brayer. And it really makes a difference. It really does not leave behind any bubbles or wrinkles. And then once it dries, I'm going to take my sanding sponge from the Dollar Tree and very lightly, only going downward, go around the edges, and the tissue paper will just separate perfectly from the wood edge. And it really, really works, and it comes out so clean. I love doing this. The next thing I'm going to do is drop another coat of Mod Podge over the top, because I do want to make sure that that is protected. And then I'm going to go on to the next pumpkin. This pumpkin, I'm going to use the pumpkin color chalk paint by Waverly. And I'm using the back side because I don't want to use the other side that had the glitter and stuff on it. And I'm going to go ahead and do several coats until it's covered perfectly. And then I'm going to take my plaster chalk paint and a little round dabber, and I'm going to put polka dots all over this pumpkin. And then I'm going to do each one twice to try to make it a little darker. And then I go back in with a little art brush and fill them in so that they're a little more solid, because I kind of like that look better. And moving on to the last little pumpkin, I'm going to put some Mod Podge down, and I've got this super cute shiplap looking scrap of paper. I'm just trying to figure out where I want to lay it. Because this is paper and not tissue, I can just do the brayer right over the top without using any of the saran wrap. I'm going to trim around the edges, do the brayer again, and then I'm going to use a blade and get a better, closer cut. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to dry brush a little bit with the plaster all the way around the edges also. And then I'm going to take a black marker. I'm going to kind of fill back in those shiplap lines and then put a little bit more of the plaster over it just to give it that distressed, worn look. But make sure the lines are distinct enough that you can see them. Now I'm going to cover the back of all three pumpkins with my craft paper. All I do is cut out a piece that will fit, hot glue around the edges, lay it down, and then trim around the edges of the paper, and that's it. I like my projects to be finished on the back, whether I paint them or use craft paper. For each of the stems, I'm going to use jute twine. On the little pumpkin and the medium-sized pumpkin, I'm going to use the very small jute twine from the Dollar Tree and just hot glue it on there, going around and around. And then on the larger pumpkin, I'm going to use the bigger jute twine. But I got that one from Walmart. Very good deal there, by the way. And I'm just going to put that one on there the same way I did the other ones. So the next thing I'm going to do is try to figure out how do I want to arrange these and attach them to each other. So after a little bit of playing around, I figured out what I thought looked to be a nice way to do it, and I'm just going to hot glue the pieces to each other. I don't think this requires E6000. You can certainly do that if you're worried about it, but the way I'm probably going to be using it, I don't think it's a problem. Now I'm going to take this cute little berry garland that I get from Dollar Tree, and I'm literally going to wrap this around a marker so that it's like a curly cute little pumpkin kind of a stick. And then I've got some leaves from Dollar Tree. I'm just going to cut them and hot glue them to either side of the stem. And I'm just trying to give this a little bit more interest and color and, you know, just kind of make it more fun. And then I've got some really cute little leaves that I got at Hobby Lobby on clearance, 40% off. And I'm going to add them to each of the pumpkins. And I just think that adds a really nice texture and just a whole kind of other level that, for me personally, I just really like the way it looks. And then I'm just going to put some jute twine on the back, a little bit of tape with hot glue, and that's it. I think this sign is so fun and really cute, and I hope you guys like it as much as I do. these 3 little kind of box frames. 2 of them are from the Dollar Tree, and 1 I got on huge clearance for 79 cents at Hobby Lobby. You aren't going to believe what I'm going to do with these, because I just saw this on one of my favorite YouTube channels, Chalk It Up Fancy. They didn't do this exact thing, but it inspired me to do this. I'm also going to use some wood beads and some little square wood blocks from the Dollar Tree, and I end up just using the little jute twine there, and then the pumpkin color chalk paint from Waverly, and the agave color chalk paint from Waverly, and the cashew colored chalk paint from Waverly. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is measure each of 2 different sides of my boxes, because I want to drill a hole right in the center. So I'm only going to show me doing the one, but I'm going to do the same thing on all 3 of the boxes and 2 sides of them, and I'm just going to drill a hole right through on 2 opposing sides. Then I'm going to use my heat tool, and I'm just going to get rid of all the little stickers and price tags. And then on the front of this one, there's a piece of leather that was hot glued there. So I will also heat that up and remove that. That was a little tricky, but I did get it off. And once I did, it required some sanding because it was a little bit rough when there was still some glue left over. Then I'm going to take my little ladybug vacuum and clean up all the little dust from sanding. That does a great job. And now on the 2 boxes from the Dollar Tree, since I'm using the back, there's like a little seam on 3 of the sides. So I'm going to use some of my spackle, and I'm just going to go ahead and fill that in, and I'm going to set it to dry. I'm going to take my pumpkin color chalk paint, and I'm going to paint the larger of the 3 little signs, and I'm going to do the whole thing, front, back, sides, everything in that pumpkin color. It takes about 2 coats. I only do 1 coat on the back though. I'm just trying to make it look nice. Then I move back to the 2 little Dollar Tree signs, and now it's dry and I can sand the spackle. And then I'm going to use my agave paint on one and do the same thing. Paint the front, sides, and back. 2 coats on the front and sides. And then the cashew color on the other one, 2 coats as well. Then I'm going to use this really cool liquid adhesive that I got at the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to cut up some scrapbook paper. I picked 3 pieces for each of the signs that I thought looked kind of cool together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make each of the papers one smaller than the next. So the very first one I want small enough so you can still see the paint around the edges. Then the second one I want you to be able to see the previous scrapbook paper, and the same thing with the third one. And when I put them all together, you will see exactly what I'm talking about. And then after I position them and see what it's going to look like, I take my little scissors and I'm using it to kind of rough up the edges. I learned this trick from my friend Linda at FaithChick777, and it's such a cool thing to do, and I'll link her channel below. And now I'm going to go ahead and use that liquid adhesive, and I'm going to put each piece of scrapbook paper on, use my brayer to flatten it, and then do the next piece and the next piece. And I'm going to do that with all 3 of my boxes. I'm not going to make you watch all of the details, but I'll just show you once they're cut out and ready to be applied. Now that all my scrapbook paper has been applied, I'm going to use Antique Wax by Waverly, and I'm going to mist my brush with some water, and then I'm going to paint the little square blocks as I'm going to create pumpkin stems. Now I also want to do the beads, so what I'm doing is spraying some of the water inside this little bowl, and then getting my brush full of the antique wax, and then going ahead and painting them all inside the bowl. And now I'm hot gluing 2 little wood blocks to the smaller pumpkins, and then I'm going to do 4 to the larger one. And it's just so cute. Oh my gosh, because now they really look like little pumpkins. Next, I'm going to take my jute twine. I'm going to try putting some hot glue on the end and see if that'll work to thread it through the holes on the signs. It only works for a couple of beads, and then I end up having to put a little tape around the end, and that works much better. So I'm going to pull it through, as you see, through the back, and then I'm going to pull a bunch of slack on the twine, and then I'm going to string it through the other 2. So the larger one will be in the middle, but I'm using some beads as like a pattern. So 2 small ones and a larger one, putting the next sign on, and then doing the same thing. And I'm going to add beads to each end, and then I'm going to make tassels. Now I have a video that I will link in the description box that goes into great detail about how to make a tassel, but just for the purpose of this video, I'm going to do it quickly, and then you can always go there if you don't already know how to make one, and then it will show you in detail. But for now, I'm just literally making 2 tassels that I wrapped around my fingers 15 times each. And now I'm trimming the little tails of the tassels, and then I'm going to tie them on to the ends of each side of the signs. And of course I knotted it first so that the beads couldn't fall off. And then I'm going to add 3 more beads to the ends, and that's it, you guys. And I absolutely love this one. It might be my favorite. Let me know what you think. For this DIY, I used this really long black pumpkin sign from the Dollar Tree. Now I cut it in half and I made sure they were both the same exact length. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to paint it in the plaster color chalk paint by Waverly. And I end up giving it 2 coats. And I'm not going to do the back side, just the front. And then on the other one, I'm just doing the back side. But I am going to do around the edges on both pieces. Next, I need to trace out that little pumpkin because I want to put a piece of scrapbook paper there, which I have right there. I'm going to use that liquid adhesive and I'm going to just attach it right to that inside part. And then I'm going to put my top piece back on, and I have a little buffalo plaid pumpkin sticker, and I'm going to attach that right there. And then I'm going to hot glue the top piece to the bottom piece. And now I've got a nice thick sign. And I'm going to use my agave chalk paint by Waverly to dry brush right over the surface and then heavily around the edges. So dry brushing, just put a little on my brush, wipe most of it off, and then drag it across the surface. I accidentally glued the 2 pieces together before I put another hole through. So I used my little pokey tool from the Dollar Tree, and I was able to get a hole going through the other side and put the hanger back on. And now I'm using some Dollar Tree stickers, and I'm going to spell out hello, and then another set of stickers to say pumpkin. And then I'm going to cover this sign with Mod Podge, and that's it. And it's so simple, but it's so cute. And I love the agave because I'm using the pumpkin color in the agave in my decor, and I'm just really loving the combination. You'll have to let me know what you think, and what colors are you decorating in if you are decorating for the autumn or fall, however you describe it. I'm just curious to know what people are using this year. There's just so many options. Or do you just go traditional, which I love as well? I found this cute little stand at the thrift store for $1, and it might have come from Dollar Tree originally, but it's just so cute. And I'm removing some of the hardware that I can remove, and then I'm going to try to sand down where that clip was and also where the words are, so it'll be easier to cover them. I'm going to clean up the dust with my ladybug vacuum, and then I'm going to use some wood filler to fill in where the little holes were from that clip that was there. And then I'll sand that down. I'm going to use my truffle colored chalk paint from Waverly, and I'm going to cover the entire sign front and back, including the little sawtooth hanger, because there's just no reason not to paint it too, because I can't get it off. And then after I do the back, I'm going to do the front, and I do 2 coats to get this really covered nicely the way that I want it. I'm using these little foam dice from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to cut a piece about maybe 1/2 inch thick. And I'm using just a little blade, and I just go around and around until I get to the middle, and then it just eventually cuts right off. And I'm going to use my White Kills primer to cover the whole front, sides, and a little bit of the back. And once the primer is dry, I'm going to use this Folk Art Cottage White chalk paint, and that's the color that I'm going to make it. And there's going to be 2 of them, and they're meant to be little marshmallows. I'm going to cover them in Mod Podge to seal them and make sure that they are a nice smooth surface. I designed a cute little saying with my Cricut Joy, and it's gonna say, "Love you s'more." You guys, isn't that adorable? I saw that on Pinterest and I just had to do it. And I just picked my font and sized my lettering after I measured where it was gonna go, and I am now transferring it to my cute little stand. You know, you could use stickers, you could handwrite it, or you could print something out and then trace it on. Even if you don't have a Cricut, this would be easy to do. And then I'm gonna take my black marker and I'm gonna make cute little faces on my marshmallows. Oh my gosh, you guys, these are so adorable. Now all that's left to do is hot glue the marshmallows right to my little sign. And I love this because you can hang it or you can use the little stand. Isn't it adorable? One last thing I did decide to do, I'm going to go ahead and use that white chalk paint again, and I'm going to take a makeup sponge and I'm just going to sponge around the edges. I just think it looks like a little more framed and finished that way, and it was super easy to do. And when I think of s'mores, I think of fun fall nights. This one was actually very easy to do, and I absolutely love it. I hope you guys do too. This super cute wood hanger with these 4 little indentations on it at the Target dollar spot for $5. I've also created a free printable, which I will have a link for, and feel free to go down in my description box and grab that if you would like to use those. I'm going to use my plaster chalk paint by Waverly. I'm going to paint both sides of this and the edges as well, just not inside the little circles. I'm going to actually end up using the pumpkin color from Waverly to paint the inside of the circles and the little edges within them. I'm using my little scissors to fussy cut out the little shapes that were on the free printable so that they are as close to their shape as possible. I'm really loving adding scrapbook paper and other kinds of paper to my home decor project. So I'm using this cute scrapbook paper. It's kind of like an argyle, and I have 2 different colors of it. And I'm just going to trace out the circles so that I have 4 little cutouts to fit inside those little circle indentations. And I think that's just going to look so cute, especially when I put the little cutouts on top. I took my plaster chalk paint and I touched up the edges where I went over just a little with the pumpkin. I'm going to use my Mod Podge to attach the little scrapbook paper circles. So I'm just going to lay down a thin coat, put down the paper, and then put some more Mod Podge over the top. And then I'm going to get my little fussy cut shapes and I'm going to Mod Podge them right to the center of each of those circles. And then I'm going to put Mod Podge over the top, and they look so cute there. And these are all fun things to do on fall nights. I recently bought a bunch of cute little embellishments at Hobby Lobby on 40% off clearance. I've got these adorable leaves, I've got little flowers, all kinds of things, and I'm just going to pick the ones that I like. I'm going to hot glue them in different places on the front, and then I'm going to also pull out some cute little flowers that I got, and I'm going to attach those, and I just love the way it looks. It's very festive, and the colors are so fall. It's just really, really cute. And then I'm going to use some rub-on transfer letters from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to spell out fall, and then after I did that, I realized, oh, I think I want to say hey fall. So I go ahead and I rub on the word fall, and then I add the word hey right above it, and I think it turned out super cute. I'm going to add back the little leather hanger that it came with. And then I've got these cute little raffia bows with a button in the middle that I got also at Hobby Lobby. And I'm just going to hot glue it right where the hole is at the top and just tack it down. And that's it. I'm really happy with how it came out. This piece came from the Target dollar spot, and there were actually two pieces, one slightly larger than this, but I'm only going to use this one, and it was $5 for both. I'm just going to go around and sand all the surfaces and edges because I want to make sure there aren't any little rough spots. And then I'm going to take that cottage white chalk paint from Folk Art, and I'm going to, not heavily, but kind of medium coverage. I want to turn this into more of a whitewash looking little crate piece. I want this to end up looking like a really old and worn sign when I'm all done with it. So I'm trying to kind of set the stage for that. I'm going to use my Arteza markers. This one is brown, and on the first row of the planks I'm going to write the word pumpkins, and then on the third one in cursive I'm going to write hay rides. Now my Y, I didn't leave myself enough space to go down, so unfortunately it got a little squished. I'm going to go over each of these words with my orange paint marker from Arteza. I'm going to do a lot of layering here and sanding and removing because I'm really going to do whatever I have to do to get till it looks the way I want. Now I'm using a black Arteza paint marker. It's running out of ink if you can't tell, but that actually worked to my advantage. And I'm writing the word apples, and I'm trying to write them all slightly different from each other. And I always say this, I am no calligrapher, but I am working on getting better at my hand lettering. So now I'm just going to darken them up a little bit, and you'll see I'll darken them, sand them off. I'm going to do all kinds of crazy things until I get it the way I like. And that's the fun with crafting. You can do whatever you want until it looks like what you want it to look like. Now I'm making a little arrow down on the very last plank. So it's like a little crate sign telling you where the pumpkins, apples, and hay rides are located. And this Arteza paint marker is silver. Now I'm going to take my little sanding sponge from Dollar Tree. I'm going to sand down each of the words and the arrow, but then I am going to go back with the steel chalk paint and I'm going to go over the arrow and then over the word apples. Now after I do that, I'm not sure that I think it's dark enough, so I do go back with some more of the black marker, and I also go back over the word pumpkins and hay rides. Basically, I'm just kind of going back and forth, like I said, because until it looks like what I envisioned, I'm just going to keep playing with it. Now, I do finally get there, by the way, and I also do a little bit of dry brushing with the steel paint, and then I also take a makeup sponge and I do a little dry brushing with the white, which is starting to get me closer to what I want because it looks a little more worn. But then a couple of the layers got a little too worn, so I had to kind of touch them back up. You'll see. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I'll just let you watch me go back and forth until I get it the way I want it. Now that I finally got that the way I wanted it, I'm going to take some very small popsicle sticks and I'm going to figure out how many I need to create a little frame for this. And I'm going to use my miter shears. You will find that in my Amazon store. It's an awesome tool. And I use this to cut off all the little round edges and then eventually to cut the pieces that I need that aren't the full size of the popsicle sticks to fill in. I stained each of them with the Waverly Antique wax and sanded the edges, and then I'm hot gluing them around the edges of the little crate to make my frame. And I'm keeping it real rustic. It's not perfect. The edges aren't 100% lined up. I wanted it to look old and worn and just not perfect. And I'm really, really happy with how it is turning out. I feel like it's really cute, and I think it could even sit on a tiered tray or on a shelf. It's just super adorable, and it will stand up all by itself, and you could hang it if you want because the back is wide open. It can hang right off the top plank. Now I'm sanding around the edges, and that's it. I hope you like it. found two cute little green candles at the Dollar Tree, and they're just so simple, but all I saw was a pumpkin. So I removed the tag, and the first color I'm using is the pumpkin color by Waverly of chalk paint, and I'm going to give it two really good coats all the way around the very top and just a teeny bit inside the rim. Because it's a candle, I didn't want to put the paint any further inside, and I love this color so much, and this really does look like a pumpkin. Now I'm going to take the white wax by Waverly, and I'm going to use a makeup sponge, rub it on, and then a baby wipe and wipe it off, and it just gives it such a nice soft look. Then I'm going to take the antique wax by Waverly, and I'm going to generously put that on, and again use a baby wipe and wipe that off. And now I'm creating a very antique kind of a look for this little pumpkin candle. I love the way it looks. It's so cute. Now for my second one, I'm going to use the agave color. Those are the colors that are kind of my main accent colors for fall, which is the kind of a blue or agave with the pumpkin color. I love those two colors together. I'm going to do the exact same process here. I'm going to give it two generous coats, then I'm going to use the white wax, put it on and wipe it off with a baby wipe, and then I'm also going to use the antique wax, put it on and then wipe it off with a baby wipe. And you guys, I love the way this turns out. This is so simple. You could do this with any ceramic piece. So I hope you do get to try it because I love the way it turns out. You'll have to let me know what you think down in the comments. I'm going to use those mesh bags, and then I've got some fabric from Walmart and a scarf from the Dollar Tree and a lot of fabric scraps that I have from my old quilting stash. And some of them are just really cute, like fall type colors, more on the boho side, so I'm going to go with that. I'm going to cut them into strips, and then I'm going to use some of my jute twine, the bigger jute twine that I get at Walmart because they have a great deal there. First, at the end, I'm going to create a loop with a knot on each side so that I have a place to hang this as a garland when it's all done. So once that knot is created, I'm going to take each strip and just kind of go in a pattern that I have decided on. And I'm going to add each one as a lark's knot and then pull it real tight together to create that garland look. And I'll show you a couple of them done close up and then I'll speed up. So I'm going to put the jute right over the top, and then I'm going to take the bottom and pull it through. I've also folded it in half to start with, just I forgot to mention that. Pull it through and then pull it really tight, move it over to the closest end where it's starting and pull it down. I'm just going to keep repeating that, go through all the different fabrics and alternate until I have an entire garland. Honestly, there's not a lot to show once I show you how to add the pieces because you just do it over and over, put on a good TV show, video, something, and just go ahead and do it. It's kind of mindless once you get the hang of it. After I got all of the pieces on, I made another loop at the other end with knots on either side. And now I'm just trimming some of those linen bag pieces because they stretched really long and I want to try to make these all pretty close in size. I absolutely love how this turned out. It's so boho fall. Let me know what you guys think too. For this DIY, I'm going to use this little wreath form, and then I'm going to take some of those fabric scraps, including the little linen bag. First, I'm going to cut off tags. I'm going to make a little hanger on the back using some jute cord, and I'm just going to wrap them all the way around. I'm going to use some of this burlap from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to cut some little strips, and then I'm going to fray the edges by removing a little bit of the pieces all the way around. And I'm going to use these little laser cut leaves that I got at Hobby Lobby on 40% off clearance, and I'm going to hot glue them all the way around the wreath just to give it that combination of color of the teal and the orange. I love that together, and I just feel like this kind of gives it a little bit of that boho vibe at the same time as fall. I have these super cute little straw hats made out of burlap, and I'm going to cut off one side and then I'm going to hot glue 3 of them to the top of the wreath, and I just think it adds such a cute little touch. Even though it's not a scarecrow, it makes me think of a scarecrow. I have these really pretty pics from Hobby Lobby. They were $5.99 but with 40% off. It's a little expensive, but they're really nice. I'm just going to cut apart some of the pieces, and I'm going to use the leaves to create a little kind of a pattern. So one on each side, and then I'm going to put some of the little berries, and I've got this little red truck from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to paint it in the agave color, and I'm going to just take off the little wire hanger. I'm going to darken in the tires with a black marker, and then I'm going to remove that little yellow flower with the leaf on it, and I'm going to go ahead and hot glue that right to the kind of bottom right of my wreath. I have these 2 little orange, I don't know if they're like berries, but I cut off the ends. Now they look like pumpkins. So I put one in the back of the truck, one was already there, and then I cut one in half and just kind of put it face down. So it looks like it's got 3 pumpkins in the back, and I added some more of those little berries just to fill in. I added a little raffia bow with a button in the middle, and that's it. And this turned out so cute. I absolutely love this, and I hope that you guys like it too. DIY, I'm going to use that little blessed mug. This is a cord like kind of cover from IKEA. I cut a little piece off, and then the terracotta pot, those 2 were required. I will also end up using my agave chalk paint, and I'm going to paint the bottom first, and then I'm going to get that dry with my heat tool from Amazon. And then I'm going to paint the whole terracotta pot in the agave. And I'm going to go on the inside just a little bit because I'm going to have rocks in there, so I don't need to go all the way down for that. Once I finish painting with the agave, I'm going to go in with my Waverly White wax to kind of whitewash it and give it a little bit of, it's not really a distressed, I guess we'll just go with whitewash look. I wanted it to have kind of like a boho fall theme, and I felt like this kind of gave that to me a little bit, just made it a little more interesting. Now I'm just trying to figure out how do I want to get this cord cover to stick, and I really want my little mug to kind of be floating, kind of popping out of it. So I'm going to use some E6000 and some hot glue to get that little cord cover thing to stick inside of the pot. But I'm also going to put rocks in there to help secure it as well. But that definitely gets it to stay so I can work with it while I'm doing all of this. And I'm going to hold that until the hot glue dries so that way it's nice and secure. I'm going to take those rocks from the Dollar Tree and I'm going to put them in. Now I do take them out a few times so that I can paint some things, and it's just easier to work without them in there, but I needed to get it in there just so I could see how this was going to look. And I'm taking a little piece of scrap wood and use my miter shears from Amazon, and I'm going to cut it down so that it will fit on the bottom of that little baby mug. And then I'm also going to attach that with E6000 and hot glue to the bottom of the mug. I'm going to paint it with the agave in case you see it, at least it'll match with the rest of it. And now I'm just attaching it to the bottom of the mug. Once the hot glue dries, then I'm going to cut another little piece of wood to actually sit inside the opening of that cord cover, because I need something to attach the wood that's on the bottom of the little mug to that cord cover. So I get it cut out with my miter shears, I paint it with the agave, and then I'm also going to glue that in, and then I can glue the 2 pieces of wood together and I'll have a much better seal because of that. There's more surface now. Now I'm taking more of that linen little bag from the Dollar Tree. That is an item that is now required. And I'm going to cut some strips, and I'm going to use that. This isn't a cactus, but I wanted it to kind of have a little bit of that look of a, you know, textured stem, I guess. But first I'm going to just lightly paint my agave over that cord cover. And also I'm going to take the succulent that I was sent, and I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to cut the little foam down so I can add another succulent in there, and then there's something for it to attach to, and it just sits in there perfectly. And now I'm just adding with some hot glue that mesh stuff that I, cut into strips, and I'm wrapping around. And I just think it adds kind of a neat texture to the whole thing. Then I'm going to put all my rocks back inside, and I still feel like it needs something, so I added a little skewer stick to help secure the mug. You can't see it right now, but it's in there. And then I'm going to take a bunch of ribbon and burlap, and I'm going to make a messy bow. I'm going to use some twine to tie around the center, and then I'm going to hot glue it to my skewer stick. And this just, to me, gives it that final touch, and I really like how it turned out. I hope you guys like it too. For this DIY, I'm going to use an empty spice container, which was actually from the Dollar Tree. And then I've got these cute little pics from the Dollar Tree. One is called Bittersweet and one is Cattails, and they're so cute. They really did a good job this year with these. And then I've got a few more strips of my fabric and scarf left over, and then some of my little linen bag. And then I've got these cute straws that were sent to me. So what I'm going to do now is figure out how long I need to cut my straws so that I can hot glue them all the way around center flat part. So I'm going to figure that out, and then I'm going to cut them all up. I'm going to hot glue them directly all the way around the spice jar. Then I'm going to take my jute rope from Walmart, and I'm going to hot glue that all the way around the bottom little ledge and then the top ledge. Just going to wrap it all around until it's all covered. And I just love the way that looks. It kind of gives it that boho vibe. And then with the colors I'm going to be using, I'm going to be bringing in the fall part. Next, I'm going to take the tags off of my little floral picks, and I'm going to cut off the bottom of each stem. And I'm actually not going to cut the pieces apart. I'm going to stick them right in because it just looks so cute together. This was such an easy DIY, you guys. I mean, it's almost like a trash to treasure in a way. I'm going to make a kind of messy bow out of my scarf, my mesh bag, and some ribbon that I got from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to take some jute, I'm going to wrap it around a few times, and I'm going to hot glue this right to the front of my jar. So cute, so easy, and I absolutely love it. I hope you guys like it too. I found this beautiful fall picture on the Kirkland's website, but it was $40, and I think I can do that for less. I'm going to use this picture frame and picture that I found at Hobby Lobby on 70% off clearance. And it's got good bones. It was $6.49 before the clearance price. I am going to take it, and I'm going to first of all get rid of those hangers and rope because they're on the wrong side. This needs to be more long ways going up and down. I'm just going to move them around. I'm going to use the Waverly ink chalk paint, and I'm going to cover the whole entire front of the sign. And I just took a little more than one coat, just touch-ups here and there, but that took care of that. Then I'm going to touch up the frame and make sure everything is solid. Now in the original picture, it was a wood grain frame, but I really didn't want to sand it down that far, so I'm going to go with the black. And then I have this really cool like buffalo check paper that I got at Hobby Lobby. It was on 40% off clearance in the teacher section, and it's like wrapping paper. I'm just going to use some Mod Podge, and I'm going to put that on after I cut out a piece that would fit, and use my brayer, which is in my Amazon store, to roll it on and try to get rid of any wrinkles. Once I get the whole thing on there, then it's ready for me to start working on the embellishments. So the first thing is a tag, and I had this little metal tag from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to paint it with the white chalk paint from Folgard, and then I'm going to use a ruler to figure out 1/8 of an inch all the way around so I can connect the dots and draw the line, and the tag will say Happy Fall. And I'm just going to use a black permanent marker and just freehand it. I have several different wood pumpkins from the Dollar Tree, and there's one that's a little larger, so I'm going to start with that one, and I'm going to use my little Cricut spatula to remove everything on the back. And actually that was the front, but I'm going to use that as the back, and I'm going to use the pumpkin and the cashew colors to paint this particular pumpkin. I'm going to start off with the pumpkin color, cover the whole thing, and then I'm going to use my little mister, which is a water spray, and I'm going to get it wet because then I'm going to add the cashew and create the highlights. Once I'm done, I will use the truffle color paint to create the contour and the shadows. And what that does is makes the pumpkin appear kind of 3D, and you can see the little curves in the pumpkin. And I just keep playing with it until it looks the way I want, and I just keep going back and forth between the cashew and the truffle to get that three-dimensional look that I'm going for. Moving on to the next pumpkin, I am going to just remove those 3 pieces on the front that make it a little thicker, and I'm going to use the back with my agave chalk paint to cover the whole thing, and then I'm going to pull in some steel, but I'm not too happy with how the steel looks, so I end up switching to white because I like the way that highlights better. I'm going to pull back in the truffle for some shading, and that is going to make this one look 3D as well, and I love the way it turned out. Moving on to the third pumpkin, I'm going to take another one that's the same size, but I'm going to actually take a blade and I'm going to cut it smaller. I'm going to use my Kills White primer paint to paint the back side of it all white, and then I'll take that blade, cut off the edges, because what I'm trying to do is have small, medium, and large pumpkins stacked on top of each other. Once I finish cutting it, I'm going to sand all the way around the edges to make it nice and smooth. After I finish with all of the white, I'm going to use my steel color chalk paint to create that shadow and contour, because it's the opposite when you do a white pumpkin. You don't really need highlights because the white is already there. I'm going to also take my truffle and I'm going to fill in the stem, because this is the pumpkin that you're going to see the whole thing, and I wanted it to, be painted correctly from the top to the bottom. The next step is to place the pumpkins on the actual picture and determine exactly where I'm going to hot glue them in place. Now mine is a little bit narrower than the original, so I just had to make it work. Now that the pumpkins are attached, I need to get a piece of twine and I need to hang my Happy Fall tag. I'm just going to use that hole that's already there at the top of the pumpkin, and I'm going to secure it, and I'm going to hide the knot behind the stem with a little bit of hot glue. And then I'm going to take them and I want to put a bow on it, but I don't want to put it way up high because that's not what it looked like in the picture. So I'm going to tie the 2 strands together and then add a bow right on top of that. I'm going to trim the twine, and then I'm going to tack down the ends so that they lay exactly the way they did in the picture. On the Kirkland's one, there was a leaf and there were some cute little stems and things like that, and a little white kind of curvy thing. So I'm just going to use this little garland that I got at Hobby Lobby on 40% off, and the leaf I had from Dollar Tree from a packet from last year. And then I'm going to use a little string from a mop head and literally just make the little white curve and do the best I can to make it look like the original. I'm so happy with how it turned out. No, it's not exactly like the original, but super close. Let me know what you think in the comments. For this DIY, I'm going to use these 2 wooden candlesticks that I ordered on Amazon, some antique wax, and then the metallic folk art paint in silver. I'm going to use some E6000, my hot glue gun, and I found these 3 silver bowls and plates at a thrift store. Really cheap, like $3 for the 2 larger pieces and only $1.99 for the smaller one that's going to go on top. And then I'm using those little ping pong balls that have the googly eyes on them from Halloween at Dollar Tree to create the feet. And I'm going to create a 3-tiered tray. So I'm going to remove the tags, and that one is super shiny and the other ones are kind of tarnished. So I'm going to clean them all with alcohol first, see what I can remove that way. And it really doesn't get rid of the tarnish, but at least they are super clean now. I'm going to use my white paint from Folk Art, and I'm going to first paint the blue part of the googly eyes, and then I'm going to paint the whole thing, and then I'm going to use my antique wax by Waverly to go over the top and make it look like these little balls are made out of wood. That's what I'm going for here. And then I'm going to take the wooden candlesticks that I got off Amazon, and I'm just going to stain them with the antique wax. And I didn't wipe off the excess because the little feet are dark, so I thought I'd just go ahead and leave it, and I love the way it looks. These candlesticks on Amazon are such good quality. They are in my Amazon store, as are all of my tools and supplies that I can put in there. So there they are, all stained. In order to get rid of that kind of tarnish and extra shine, I'm using the silver metallic paint by Folk Art, and I'm just dabbing it all around. And it's actually doing exactly what I was hoping it would do. And I'm going to do this to all of the silver pieces because it really helps, 1, get rid of the tarnish, and then 2, dull down the shine just enough. And I'm really happy with how that turned out. Very lightly, I'm putting very little on, just dabbing it everywhere. Now that I finished doing that silver paint, I'm going to use a combination of E6000 and hot glue on my little feet, and I'm going to hot glue them like in a little square formation on that round bottom flat piece. I can't do it on the outside edges because they're a little higher and it wouldn't like hit the ground, if you will. I hadn't thought about that when I picked out this plate, but this works out just fine to put them on the very bottom, and it's actually very stable, so I'm happy with how that worked out. The next thing I'm going to do is take my candlesticks, and again using a combination of E6000 and hot glue, I'm going to attach them to the center of each of the pieces or levels of the tray, and that will actually complete the formation of the 3-tiered tray. You know, after the fact, I thought about I probably should have put something in the middle of the top one so it comes up like a little finial type thing, and I don't know why I didn't think of that, so I may go back and do that later, but I didn't end up doing it for this video. But it still came out super cute, and I am very happy with how it turned out. I hope you guys like it, and you can see just how easy it is to make this. This DIY is so easy and it turns out so cute. I've got this little white vase I got at the Target dollar spot. Oh gosh, it's been a while. It came as a set of 3 for $3. And then I'm using some twine and then some rub-on stickers from the Dollar Tree. And literally I'm hot gluing some twine around that kind of middle section where it narrows on the vase. And then I'm going to trim it. I'm not using a lighter. I don't know why I'm so scared to do that. One of these days I'll brave it, but I'm just going to trim it with my little scissors. And then I'm also going to make another little area of twine on the bottom, about as thick as the one above. It's just so simple, so cute. This was such a fast DIY to create. Usually my DIYs take me a little longer. This was so fast and easy, and I just absolutely love the way it's turning out. Next, I'm going to take those rub-on transfers that I have from the Dollar Tree, and there's some really cute designs on here besides the letters. And I'm going to cut out two of they're like little vines kind of designs, and I'm just going to rub them on one side and then the other. And that way, no matter which direction you're looking at this little vase, it will look really cute and decorated. And this is just such a simple design, but it adds so much. And this could be used for the fall, depending on the florals you put in it, or actually any time of the year, because it's like a boho farmhouse kind of. I love it. Oh my gosh. And then I'm going to add some really cute fall colored florals, and that's it. And it's going to look so cute on the tiered tray. Be sure to let me know what you think down in the comments, and I really hope you guys like it. I love buffalo check in the fall with the fall colors combined. I ordered these cute little rolling pins off of Amazon. They are so adorable. And then I had this buffalo check tissue paper that I think I got at the Dollar Tree a while ago. And if it wasn't the Dollar Tree, I think it was Michael's. And I'm going to use this white paint by Folk Art, and I'm just going to paint that one kind of flat section that goes around the rolling pin. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want it to be a lighter color under the tissue paper. Otherwise it'll look like the wood grain, it'll be darker. And so then I'm going to cut out a piece of the tissue paper, and I'm going to kind of make it more precise by putting it on my little cutting mat and then measuring. And then after I get that all measured and figured out, I'm going to Mod Podge it directly onto the little rolling pin. And I'm just being really careful to rub it down so I won't have any little wrinkles or bubbles. And because it's such a small surface, it's pretty easy to do that. And once I get the whole thing attached and I trim off the excess at the end when it comes together, I'm also going to add a layer of Mod Podge over the entire thing just to seal the whole thing in and make sure that it stays very nicely attached to this adorable little rolling pin. To give the two ends a little more of a finished look, I'm going to wrap some very thin jute cord just around where the tissue paper meets the wood on each side, and I think that just kind of finishes off that part of it, and I really like the way that turned out. I have these really cute die cut leaves that I got at Hobby Lobby on 40% off clearance, and I'm just going to add 3 of them across the middle with hot glue, and that is it. So simple and so cute. A little cube has become a staple on my 3-tier trays. I made a lemon one for the spring and I love it. This is one of the little dice from the Dollar Tree, and then I cut out some cute little calendar pictures from the back of a calendar so that you get those little boxes, and I picked all the fall ones and then a couple extra ones that just kind of go with it. And I'm going to take that white paint from Folk Art and I'm going to paint the entire cube, and this is like my base coat actually. Then after I get that completely painted and dried, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some of the warm buff around just the edges that might show. Now, I end up doing something different, so I didn't even need to do this part, but I didn't realize that at this point. So this is an option if you're not going to do something that you'll see me doing here in just a minute. So literally just going around all of those like ends, the end pieces, because those little cutouts are going to cover the center. just deciding where I want to place each of my little square pictures, and I'm actually going to hot glue them on and go around all of the edges and make sure that it's laying as flat as possible. I probably should have trimmed them just a little smaller, and then it would have laid a little better, but you know, I wanted so much more of the picture and I didn't want to give up any of it. So I made it work and just kind of worked a little harder with the hot glue to keep it down. Then I'm going to go over the entire cube with Mod Podge and just heavy coat of Mod Podge to fill in any little gaps. Then I am going to take some nautical rope that I actually got at Walmart, great deal if you buy it there, and I'm going to lay a piece of that rope around every square, and that's why I didn't actually need to paint the warm buff, but I decided to do this after the fact. So this is another option. You can either paint that color in between or you can use the rope. I'm loving the rope, especially for the fall. So I think this was such a great way to go, and I'm just thrilled with how it looks. Making these cute little cubes with the pictures on the side for the different seasons is such a nice piece to add to a 3-tier tray, and I love it. For this DIY, I'm repurposing a previous DIY that I'm not really using anymore. It's that little frame. It's kind of like a box frame, and I'm using some scrapbook paper and a little sticker that I got on 40% clearance at Hobby Lobby. And what I'm going to do is, first of all, sand all around the edges, and I'm going to sand the front because there's a lot of paint on there, and there's also a couple ridges I wanted to get rid of. So I'm going to use my sanding sponge from the Dollar Tree and take care of that, and then I'll clean up all the sawdust with my little ladybug vacuum. And I'm going to use this color called Fawn. It's a Waverly chalk paint, and it's like a beige, kind of a darker beige, and I'm going to paint the entire frame and the back also, and then the top and the inside sides, if you will. So everything but the face, basically, I'm going to paint with this color. Once the paint is dry, I'm going to take my scrapbook paper and I'm going to estimate about how big of a piece I need by kind of, using my fingernail to push in against the edges. And when I cut it out, it's still a little too big, so I do trim it up. And then once I get it to the right size, I am able to make sure that it will fit. And then I take it out and I put some Mod Podge down, and I'm going to go ahead and then attach it. And I'm going to add another coat of Mod Podge over the top just to make sure that it's nice and secure in there. Once the Mod Podge is dry, I'm going to add my cute little sticker right to the center, and it's like a 3D type of a sticker. It's just adorable. Then I'm going to take these die cut leaves and some beautiful little paper flowers that I also got at Hobby Lobby on 40% clearance. And I'm going to pick a couple flowers and a couple leaves, and I'm just going to position them inside the little box frame, and I'm going to hot glue them down, and that's it. This was so fun and easy, and it's adorable. I absolutely love it. It's going to look so cute on my 3-tiered tray. I sure hope you guys love this one as much as I do, and stay tuned at the end to see them all displayed on my 3-tiered tray. Now that fall is here, I decided that I needed to do some new pillow covers. And I had purchased these from Amazon, but I thought with some cute little dish towels that I bought at Hobby Lobby, maybe I could make some myself and do it without sewing. Now I have a sewing machine, but I wanted to try this because I've seen other people do it. And I wanted to see just how easy it was. Looking at the ones that I already have, and I'm kind of gauging how I might want to arrange my 2 different ones. So that's why you see the old one underneath, and I'm kind of laying the other ones on top and, deciding how I might want to position them and how it would look best. And I love those tassels, so I really wanted to incorporate them. The more I play with it, the more I realize what I want to do. Now, my pillow covers that I already had were a little bit too big, so I knew I needed to make them slightly smaller. I'm also going to grab the pillow that I want to cover, and I'm going to try to put that down so I can make sure I put enough fabric there. Now that I've kind of figured out how I want to lay this out and do it, I'm going to start cutting. So I need to cut off a little piece from the dish towel with the buffalo check on it. Now the key to these little pocket pillow covers is you need them to overlap a little so that you can tuck the pillow in. And because of that, I just need to make sure that there's overlap on both sides so it'll cover where the seam would be. Now I'm going to hot glue down a double hem on the rough end that I just cut. It'll look nice and clean that way. I decided that I want the tassels to come right under where the truck is and where that seam would be. So I'm going to hot glue the wrong side right to that front piece there because you won't see the seam. It'll be on the inside, and that way the right side is facing up just like the piece with the truck on it. So I'm just going to go across the whole thing and hot glue that. Now that I have that done, I want the tassels to lay down so they don't pop up over the truck. So I'm going to untangle them and individually hot glue the knot of the tassel down. And I'm going to do that all the way across, and that will also make sure that everything just lays really nice and even. Now this wouldn't be an issue if I didn't have tassels on here. It would be much easier just putting the wrong sides together, gluing them and so forth. But because I wanted to position the tassels in a certain way, that's why I'm having to go through this extra step. And I did want to mention that I'm using the Gorilla hot glue sticks because they work so well, and I know that they can actually go through the wash and it'll be fine. I just wouldn't put it through the hot dryer. Now that I've got all my tassels hot glued down so that they will lay nice and flat, I need to cut off the other end of this fabric. So I'm kind of using the other one that I cut off as a guide because I did make another pillow cover before I made this one. It looks crooked, I know, but I fix it with my little hem. So I'm just hemming it with the hot glue here. And as I go across, I do pull it a little further down so that I make it more even. I wasn't doing exact measuring or anything like that because I was trying to make this as easy as possible. Now that I have all of my fabric attached to each other, I'm going to again check the pillow and make sure that I fold it over at the right length so that I have enough to create a flap for the pillow, and then also so that I can, line up the seam. So right now that's what I'm doing. I've lined up the seam on the plaid one, and I'm going to go ahead and hot glue that across. I'm going to do that on both sides before I do the other one because I want to double check again to make sure that the pillow is going to fit in there. And here comes the pillow again so that I can double check, and then I will know exactly where to attach the seam of my second piece. And that's what I'm doing right now with my hot glue. And this is going to be just a really nice snug fit, I'm sure of it. And now that all the assembly is done, I have to turn this inside or right side out. So I'm going to try to pull those corners back through as tightly as I can, and it's just looking so cute. And I'm just going to get my hand in there and keep pushing in so that I get nice little points. And then I'm going to grab my pillow and start stuffing it in there. That's the hardest part, is getting the corners of the pillow all the way into the corner of the case. And it takes a little maneuvering, so you're going to see me kind of go back and forth and back and forth, but I'm determined. I'm going to get it in there nice and snug, and that's what you want. You actually actually want your pillow cover to be a teeny bit smaller than the pillow so that it's a nice snug fit. Otherwise, like the ones that I was using as a guide, they're too big and it just looks kind of weird to see all that extra fabric. So I was going to make sure that I did this one nice and snug. I cannot get over how easy this was to make. And you know what? I'm not even sure if I'd sew them after doing this because this was so fast and so easy. And if it wasn't for the tassels, this would have been even faster. But I do really love the tassels. As I said before, I made 2 of these. The other one was made off camera, and then I actually made another one. And I hope you guys like it. I'll show you all 3. This was so easy. I'm not even sure if I'd buy pillow covers again. I'd probably just make them for all the seasons. Let me know if you've ever done this before, and after seeing this, would you try it? I don't know about you guys, but I have been seeing things on Pinterest that are super cute lately, and I saw people were creating fall trees, and I thought, what a perfect idea to create a fall tree, and then it could be transitioned to Christmas so easily. I got a leather leaf garland from Hobby Lobby. It was on 40% off, and then I've got these super cute, I think they're like placemats or just, I don't know what they are, but they're also from Hobby Lobby, and I've got cute little pumpkins, and then I've got some leaves that were left over, and then I've got a bag of, like, you know, pumpkins and gourds and squash and stuff, and then a bunch of little pine cones and little mini pumpkins, you name it. I have so much fall stuff, and I thought, what better way to use a bunch of it than to create a little fall tree. I've never done this before, but I am really loving the whole idea. So I had to shoot this from a little further back, otherwise you couldn't see it, and so you can see my kind of messy craft room, and you can see me in all my glory with my hair up without makeup. This is what I look like when I craft. So there you have it. And I'm going to wrap around this garland, which is so cute. Oh my gosh, I love this thing, you guys. I'd never seen this before, and when I saw it, I had to have it. And because it was 40% off, of course, that was a great price. I don't remember, but I know it was reasonable. Otherwise, I would not have bought it. Now, I only have 1 strand of it, so I'm just kind of making it work the best I can. Next, I got these little scarecrows from the Dollar Tree. It comes 2 in a pack, and I think I have like 4 packs of them. And I just couldn't think of what I was going to do with them. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to take them out, and I'm going to stick them in the tree, and they'll become part of my decor for the fall tree. Isn't that cute? And the colors are just perfect. It's so fall and just adorable. So literally, I'm just finding places where they'll kind of stick in there securely. Question: have you ever done a fall tree, or even a tree that isn't just Christmas? Like, I've heard of people doing Valentine's trees and things like that. I've never done anything but Christmas trees. Now I've got this orange burlap roll from Dollar Tree, and it's a little wide, so I'm going to take my scissors, I'm just going to cut it right down the middle, and then I'm going to wrap that around like garland. Then I have a traditional looking burlap one. I'm going to do the exact same thing, and it's just going to look so nice and so fall, and just really gives it that nice warm traditional colors of fall. Now, every once in a while you'll see me look straight ahead at the camera, and it's mostly because I can see what it looks like from the front then, so it's like looking in a mirror kind of at the front of the tree. So just in case you were wondering, because I keep noticing myself doing that, and it makes me laugh. Also, I have one of those really serious faces when I'm concentrating, and I just look mad. I promise you, I was not mad. I was actually having a really fun time. Now I've got some fall leaves that were just from various picks that I had laying around, so I'm just going to stick them in here and there just for a little bit more fun. This is a great way to use up your scraps and your extras. Now I've got so many fall picks that I picked up between Hobby Lobby and the Dollar Tree. I'm going to use my little snips. I'm just going to take these off the big stems so I have more of them to put around the tree. And I love this gorgeous, like, kind of burnt burgundy-ish orange color. It's stunning, and it's just going to add so much to this tree with the brighter colors. This tones that down, and it just, you know what it reminds me of when you go look at the leaves change? The only thing I didn't put in here was really purples, but otherwise it's got all of the different colors. And then I've got some of this like kind of straw looking pick from Dollar Tree. I'm going to put it up at the very top, and you won't be able to see it till later, but just when it's sticking out of the top, I thought that made it look really cool. And I just wrapped the bendy part around the very top. You know where you'd put a star on the tree? I just wrapped it around that very top stem. And then I've got some of these gorgeous pics from Hobby Lobby that were 40% off. I mean, theirs looked so real. They were gorgeous. Normally they're too expensive for me, but I found them on sale and I had to grab some. Now I'm going to take some more of these little cattails and different, fall wheat looking pics, and I'm just going to stick them all the way around the tree in different places. And it's just looking so fun and festive. Honestly, I can't believe I've never done this before. I'm really happy with it. My husband was thrilled. He loves fall. I could put fall decorations up all year round and he'd be thrilled. He is like in love with this tree, you guys. He just adores it. And now I've got this pine cone with like cotton on it, and I thought that's gonna look so cute up at the top, so I'm just gonna stick it in there. So now I'm going to take some different baskets. This is a little black plastic basket from the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to take those placemats and I'm going to kind of fold them into the basket. And then I'm going to stick pumpkins and gourds and pine cones and fun stuff in there that I have. And that's what's going to sit under the tree. So I'm going to have 3 cute little baskets. And then I've got these white pumpkins that I also got from Hobby Lobby on sale. This gold basket I love, that's from the Dollar Tree also. I'm going to take another placemat and put it in there and do the same thing. And then I found this adorable orange and white plaid kind of tray thing, and I'm going to put more stuff in that. So here I'm giving you a little bit of a closer look of these. And there's the top of the tree. See all the stuff sticking out with the pine cones. Isn't that cute? And then you can see the rest of it. I'm so happy with it. Please let me know what you think. And would you do a fall tree now that you've seen this? It was really fun, and it's going to be so easy to take out the decorations and put Christmas right on. Perfect transition. Thanks for watching my video. I appreciate it. And you are truly a blessing to me. If you enjoyed this video, I'm going to have some more on the screen on either side of my head. Click on one of those next. And if you go, I'll see you there. Bye.